So you also were talking about the weapons that never are being delivered to Taiwan, but they constantly are paying for it. How do the people react to that?
Mm. Well, there's still a core 20 to 35% of people. This number is shrinking as DPP loses popularity. But there are people who really, they're ideologically captured, and they really do believe that China is an evil monster that needs to be resisted and fought against. And that, yeah, we might have paid for these weapons and they're not delivered yet, but America is the best ally we have, and we have to trust them, and we shouldn't be skeptical. So there is a there is a small number of people that believe that. Not that small. Like I said, it used to be like 30-40%, but that number is dwindling. I would say the majority of Taiwanese are interested to have some sort of diplomacy and peace with the mainland. They're not ready for full reunification. They've been used to status quo for a long time. I think peaceful reunification is still far away, and there's going to be some hurdles to overcome. But overall, from what I see, Taiwanese people do not want to uh, get get locked into some sort of real conflict with China. Um,
No. Is there a debate about it that might happen? I mean, when they look at Ukraine and how also the South China Sea, like the Philippines, South Korea, Japan, are being boosted in military spending, and all to basically attack China, right? They call it counter, but
yeah.
China isn't being aggressive, so there's nothing to counter. Uh,
Right.
th-
It's the narrative, right?
yeah,
They can, some talk. You used to hear 10 years ago a lot, China is pointing their weapons at Taiwan. But now I think more people in Taiwan are realizing, there's a lot of American military bases and assets in the area. So I think more Taiwanese people are increasing their level of information. And there's constant debates on debates are very popular on TV shows. Taiwan is a very political place in general, so I think people are more political and aware in general. But at the end of the day, people say, "What can we really do? We other than vote, we can't really change too much." The people who are very passionate, they go on the streets and they protest, but it doesn't seem to have any sort of major effect or any material effect. So I think more and more people, they're open to diplomacy with China, but they're also more apathetic from what I see, and they're just trying to get by. And and there's also paranoia with the KMT camp. I mean, there's paranoia in general, but with people who are pro KMT, who are pro engagement with China, they have memories of Li Denghui, the KMT leader, who was kind of like a double agent, seemed to be helping create the DPP, helping create Taiwanese independence, while having famous clips of saying, Chinese people are all brothers on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. And so with Zheng Li, when going to meet Trump, I think in June, I don't know if she's meeting Trump actually, but she's going to the States to meet a lot of American politicians and think tankers. And so there are people who say, oh, this is KMT. Again, they're going to play both sides. They say what we want to hear in terms of peace and reunification and love with China, but then they also want to keep the Americans happy. So this might just be another case of forever strategic ambiguity. But there
so
are also people who say that's not the case. We're seeing a different environment and energy and ambiance with the new KMT chairwoman, and she's kind of a hardline about not wanting Taiwan to be in an adversarial position with China. So we'll see how her trip in Washington goes, and we'll see how Washington responds. Um, I'm guessing that the Americans will keep trying to use Taiwan as a thorn against China's side for as long as possible.
Yeah, but it is kind of weird if she doesn't want China to be an adversary, then to make a trip to the United States. That doesn't make sense.
Maybe
So I,
she,
I
maybe
do understand the people in Taiwan if they think like, oh yeah, it's going to be in the old, in the old way again.
it might be some sort of strategy or obligation even that we're not privy to. I don't know. Like yeah, I don't know for sure. But there are people who believe the Taiwanese politicians are very much influenced and under control of Americans.
How do the people think about that?
I think people don't, you know,
You,
like if you talk to, uh, in general, it's considered not polite to talk about politics in Taiwan. So, you know, people that I talk to who I don't know well, they usually just make one or two comments, and it's like, yeah, what are we going to do? Yeah, I know, but what are we going to do? That's sort of the most common sentiment I see. And then the second most common sentiment is, I don't want to fight. What are we fighting for? And then if I talk to friends and family, they might be more, they might have higher level information, they might be dialed in, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, we can talk about it a bit, but I don't really want to talk about it because I'm sick of it, um, and I don't see what talking about it's going to do. I think Taiwanese people, they're interesting because they'll get very passionate about voting. They'll get very passionate about getting involved, but they at the same time they'll be like, I don't know if this is going to do much. So it's like they know that the chances are low, but they still keep trying. They'll participate for the most part.
so it seems like they kind of have given up.
I think I think some of them have this maybe a bit of a black pill view that Taiwan is a bit of a pawn, and that ultimately the Taiwan question is a question that will be decided by America and China. It doesn't matter if Taiwanese vote in a certain way. Ultimately, this is a foreign policy issue, and foreign policy is decided by those with the most power. So I think there's a sizable amount of Taiwanese people who would agree with that statement.
But don't they want to have their own sovereignty over their foreign power?
Taiwanese people,
Yeah.
maybe the Taiwanese independence people. I mean, back in the day, Taiwanese Chinese nationalists would have wanted to take back mainland China. I think most of them see it as an impossibility now. Um, the Taiwanese people who are maybe less adept with geopolitics and global politics, they might believe that Taiwan has a chance to be completely sovereign and one day abandon the Republic of China constitution. But I think most people know that that's not possible once they get into it.